From the Overwatch League Summer Showdown APAC edition here, closing out the evening for week 2 with our final match of the day. Shanghai versus Chengdu. It's me, Avril, with Leg Deus Ex here, who cursed Fury to fly off the map. So, I don't know if you have any more curses today for specific players. And
it's okay, man. I'm all out of spell slots. We're good.
Are you? Okay. It is, well, I don't know. I don't know if you're a Warlock and maybe you recharge on a short rest. We'll come back after the break and see if you do. But Hunter's here. It is Chengdu zone, so everything is Chengdu zoneable, which means anything can happen. 7 and 8 Hunters versus 12 and 3 Dragons. Both teams are obviously safe at the moment. Hunters, after winning a couple games as well, collecting those points, definitely out of the bottom of APAC, meaning they're unlikely to be removed from play-in's contention. But we are here to talk about Summer Showdown qualification. The Dragons at this stage are very safe. They aren't guaranteed unless they win this. I think Seoul have clinched with a 4-0. Shanghai, if they beat Hunters today, will also clinch with a 4-0. Chengdu, though, are sitting at a 2-1. And I've said before, 3 is like kind of like the magic number for them. So if they can win versus the Dragons, then they'll be at 3-1, right? I think Chengdu would potentially be safe to get it. They wouldn't clinch, but they would be giving themselves an extremely good chance.
Chengdu do have games in hand against some of the easier teams, as well as they have already gone up against Seoul and got thoroughly battered. Let's move over to our first starting lineup, though, so we can start highlighting some of the players who are going to be popping off in this particular rambunctious little battle. I believe it's going to be Shanghai first, Avril.
And the expected lineup for the Shanghai Dragons, where, you know, again, as I've said every single time we've seen Shanghai so far this stage, the addition of Who Are You back in the starting lineup on a Genji and a Genji meta just does wonders. But it's also been Lip. The story of Lip coming in this year, it's been a bit rough for Lip because, you know, Sombra has been kind of gutted with the changes, even though the pro said she was broken way back, and now it's like, really? Don't think so. And Shanghai, you know, it's been about Sojin. It's been a lot about Sojin this year. Shanghai got to use Lip Soldier earlier on in KC to do a lot, but now the Soldier's gone. Lip had mostly struggled with Sojin, I gotta say, and deeper now in the Summer Showdown, Sojin is suddenly, you know, a very capable pick for Lip. In fact, he's earned at least 2 player of the matches on Sojin so far, and he handled Fusion yesterday with this pick, this pick specifically.
Yeah, and admittedly, we have just seen Fusion handled by another Sojourn pick on Jimmy, so he's in good company there. Let's have a quick look at the Chengdu Hunters to see who will be rallying against Lip. I'm a big fan of Who Are You and the hair clip better as well. Very fashionable, big swag lord coming on through. And
because Monk plays the break, so he's going to be rallying.
Indeed he will be. Gaga. Gaga's been a real uptick for Chengdu Hunters. Like, coming in, I believe last year it was, really changed Chengdu around from their previous somewhat static identity behind the power of the Among Ball, combined with Elsa, of course, on a variety of off-tanks. But Gaga has been one of the biggest upgrades I think a team has had across the Overwatch League. Just finding another tank in China who's got sort of the same, almost main tank prowess as Gushui, but also incredibly flexible. Gaga can play so many things incredibly well, including drawing equal with Among when it comes to the Wrecking Ball, and seemingly doing pretty well on the Junker Queen as well.
Well, he's going to have to, because there's not a lot of depth here. It's him and Daisy, and Daisy hasn't had the greatest season so far. It's been a bit rough for the newcomer to the Chengdu Hunters. Big shoes to fill in terms of Late Young no longer being on the team, but in 5v5 so far, it's been Gaga, I think, leading the way, and you know, that is really the only option. So you either swim with Gaga or you sink entirely so far for the Chengdu Hunters, and I'd have to say they are freestyling pretty well, maybe a bit of backstroke the Summer Showdown as well. It is summer, they're getting out in the water. And Jimbu's Genji has been pretty... Oh, there's Leave. Okay, he's finally coming in. So I was wondering where Leave was, but he left.
He's a wizard, man. He's never late. He's never late. He's never early. He arrives exactly when he intends to.
Here we go. Okay, so I think in some cases, Leave's had a bit of an interesting journey this year as well, because you know he did win an MVP last year. Lip won the Grand Finals MVP, so it'll be MVP versus MVP from 2021. Both have had a very slow start on the Sojin. Lip wasn't that great on Sojin earlier on. I would say Leave also kind of struggled on the Sojin. He wasn't that amazing earlier on. but Lieb in recent games has been phenomenal on the Sojourn. Like, he has really caught up and worked. Jinmu as well has been great on that Genji, and these are two of the most important heroes. As long as Gaga isn't doing things poorly, he's fine. Void will be a difficult opponent for him today. The backline of Chengdu has been doing admirably. Monk has surprised me quite a lot on that Brig, but Easyak and Lee Jae-gon have been looking phenomenal. That is probably what is, in my opinion, going to be the most difficult part for Chengdu to get over. I actually believe that their DPS line, their tank, is probably going to do okay versus the Shanghai Dragons. It's the difference in supports that might be the make or break here leg day as we get started on Oasis.
Could we say that this match has an Avril seal of banger?
I'll tell you after 5 maps. After 5, no, actually, okay, I'll tell you after 4 maps. When we get to the 5th map, I'll be like, boom, this is my seal of approval for an Avril
cool.
banger. Yeah, you know what?
You don't give those out easy.
I think it will be. Here's an actual really fun thing about Shanghai and Chengdu is that Lip has kind of blossomed this new friendship with Jinmu that started earlier this year when Shanghai were in a little bit more trouble in terms of their season hopes. They were struggling, right? And Lip and Jinmu started playing a lot of rank together.
At home as well.
Sure, yeah. There was, you guys didn't see this in the messaging, but in the chat, in the lobby before we got into the game, Lip says, or rather Jinmu says to Lip, he says, "Don't aim me, please." And Lip and the camera had a bit of a laugh, so we'll see how much of that happens. As we head into the first neutral on jump pad.
Falling a little bit low, Lee Jae-gon playing gatekeeper for the moment. Gaga does go low, but Lee Jae-gon forced to retreat from the high ground, which is going to be a quick reset. And you can see that at the moment, Monk and Nisha are doing their best to make sure no one gets out of that bouncy castle unscathed.
And it will be Jinmu on to Izayaki first and foremost. So the first blood being found there, Shanghai. A bit of HP trouble. Losing one of your healers means that Void's going to have a little bit of trouble staying up and might end up getting targeted here. Shanghai, for what it's worth, have done well to maintain their 4 alive, and if they can get Izayaki back to action, they can actually stabilize here. And in fact, they haven't even allowed Chengdu to cap.
Oh, where's the backup here? There are 5 members of Chengdu Hunters, yet no one looking at that door between Huayu and Jinmu. Getting rid of Huayu would have been instrumental for making sure the Shanghai Dragons couldn't get in here for a fast fight. And once again, Huayu is under the auspices of so many Chengdu Hunters pokes, but it's Lip who finds the real pain being delivered by Lieb. You talked about how much Lieb is impressive on the Sojourn so far, and Shanghai Dragons are finding it out the hard way. Please don't aim me, but aim he do.
What would be Huayu taking out Jinmu here as Lieb took out his counterpart, as we sort of mentioned. Shanghai Dragon still not able to get enough of a play advantage to push back in. It's been a very low kill game. Point did eventually get capped after a little bit of effort from the Chengdu Hunters side. 35 and counting. First ultimates about to come online, and it should be Huayu. Monk will have the rally as well. In fact, Monk might need to think about, oh my god, might need to think about getting it done, but Lip takes him down. That was the important frag that Lip needed to get.
Gonna have plenty of time to think while he waits for the respawn. Gaga down, there's no burst healing coming through from the repair pack, so it's easy as it comes for Huayu.
Wow.
Oh, I'm feeling the lunatic high flashbacks because this guy's an absolute nut on the mechanics.
Got the 5th kill stolen by Void there, unlucky.
Big unlucky. That's a mental boomer. That's friendly fire.
I'd be annoyed personally. I'll probably opt in from the
Complain to Coach Moon.
Coach Moon, he stole my last kill.
Get Fate. That's not acceptable. We need Fate to play this game now. Void can't be stealing 5Ks like that. Here we go, Jinmu. His opportunity to get some real damage done. Izayaki is going to rally this one. So they're saving the sound barrier for now, and that's effective. It's the rally just scares away the Chengdu Hunters. To be fair, it was just Jimmy going in. The rest of the Hunters were not quite in position to get too much more done. Lieb now trying to open the door with his own overclock. Had the flag onto Lip a little bit earlier on, and this time Shanghai Dragons happy to wait it out. It's 2 ultimates that Hunters have not had value on now. It's Blade versus Beat. Rampage is coming on next, and because Huayu goes in, Gaga responds. Humongous Rampage coming on, and Lee Jae-gon does not say Void. 5 versus 3.
Absolutely, Gaga. And while it is going to be difficult to cap this, Lee Jae-gon will eventually fall, and now Chengdu Hunters should be able to surround the pavilion and get themselves a kill. Someone's still messing around here. It's Izayaki in the back. And while Jinmu did get that Spectator Blade to begin with, it did allow for the overall thrust of Chengdu Hunters' push with the rally to be so much more effective and to survive the storm of Huayu's Blade.
Well, the difference is Jinmu blades, but it gets countered by support ultimate. But Jinmu doesn't die. Huayu blades, gets countered by support ultimates, and Hunters kill Huayu, and then get the snowball frags after that. So actual player advantage does count. While it's a Spectator Blade, like you said, good news is, silver lining, Chengdu have 5. Now they have all 5 up to make this final fight happen as they reach towards the 99% mark. Void is the only ultimate on board. Looking to expend it. Can be difficult to get a good rampage here. You can look how spread the Hunters are. They're spaced brilliantly, and because Hunters are waiting, or rather Shanghai have been waiting, they lose Lip. It's going to be a solo of the Gaga. He's okay. Lots of green HP surrounded, killed by Nisha, and Hunters have another 5v3. Lip's only respawning now, but he might be coming in too late. If Hunters get another frag here, I think the Dragons are done for this round.
Liege gone, the last remaining, and you know what, Avril? Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious. Void stole Who Are You's 5k. Guys, I'm gonna rampage. Are you with me? Yes, says Who Are You. And he lied.
Chengdu Hunters, truth be told, brilliant start. And question mark for me was always going to be, we know that these are the top 3 teams. We know that Seoul beat Chengdu, handedly as well. Shanghai, looking like the only other team that can hold the candle to Seoul Dynasty. 2 things are relevant here. 1, the result to Chengdu from Shanghai is going to get compared to the Seoul result. However, context does matter. I think Hunters have also improved a lot since that Seoul game. So now the real question becomes, how far have Hunters improved? Enough to beat Shanghai Dragons? Because our current ranking, probably you'd say, looks at Seoul 1, Shanghai 2, Chengdu 3. Can Chengdu maybe get one over Shanghai and get 2 instead?
Alright, the 2 versus 2. On the outside, Liege gone, going to be forced to back off for but a moment. And you know, Shanghai Dragons are probably pretty confident with this. 2 mechanical monsters
Successful.
here. There it is. Liege gone. It's a Lucio diff, he declares.
I saw that one coming. You see Liege gone. He's playing not quite skybox, but whatever the ceiling capacity of a university is. Dive bombing on top of Nisha. I thought maybe Nisha would have been okay, given that he's a Lucio that can also wall ride, but couldn't find the wall and will go down. So that's a nice opening pick via the Lucio, and Liege will be happy to collect the 40% advantage to Nisha's 25. And Hunters will have to be the ones looking for an opportunity to walk on, and his Dragons already have Cap. Leave on Lip again. Oh my goodness. 2 rounds in a row. Leave has found this.
And you talked about, Avril, as we came into this matchup, how much of a monster Leaf has been on the Sojourn. And it's only becoming more and more true with each passing moment. Yeah, that's true, and that's pretty true, and furthermore, it's true.
Jinmu and Nisha adding to that as well. Chengdu Hunters now on the slow comeback towards the 36. It won't be taking them that long. They can probably get that in the space of another fight coming in from the Shanghai Dragons. No further ultimates, in fact just no ultimates. Li Jigon had a bit of a lead that's now been closed up reasonably significantly. Nisha's only trailing behind by a small bit now, less than 10%. Lip got another rail, but it doesn't go to their head. That's a bit of PTSD for him, though. Nearly died again to leave.
It's about building up that fear factor, conditioning the enemy. Gaga has a knife inside of a Brigitte, holds onto it for a moment. Now using physical cover to try and avoid getting pulled in by Void. No one to be gained from the carnage. Alright, your disengagement stopped by the knife, but everyone from Shanghai moves forward anyway. Gaga and Nisha so low, but Monk keeps them up for about a second. Jinmu getting so much damage here and almost has the blade. A swap over for Shanghai Dragons. Jinmu moves in, blade in hand and a sound barrier in his back as well. I've got the power of God anime and the boombox on my side, but it's Who Are You who turns it around with the reverse. And Shanghai Dragons found Chengdu Hunters overextended, overstretched, and with no rear guard.
Definitely overstretched towards the end there. You see that Chengdu actually had Jinmu going down below. I don't know if he's looking for a health pack or just trying to get rid of the aggro on top of himself. But while he's wall climbing out of the pit, the Chengdu Hunters lose members. And, you know, Blade even coming through Jinmu gets a single frag. Who Are You holds on. Blades himself gets slightly better value on top of it. The Chengdu Hunters will fall. Here comes 2 ultimates. Double catch on the rampage. Jinmu deletes his Yaki. Is that going to be enough though? Void can't get healed. Lip barely gets healed back up, but as Lip is getting healthy, his team is left to rot. And the Shanghai Dragons, a very, very brief window where they had the lead in terms of at least winning these fights, and that will be flipped over by the Hunters now with 30% left to go.
Big investment, however, and now Void's going to be able to use a rampage here, Avril, and it should be fairly difficult to counter, especially on this kind of mono verticality. It's going to be difficult to get away from Void.
So spacing will be important. Well, you just takes on Gaga, so this might be a fight where they can just save the ultimates. I don't even know if you want to use the rampage anymore. especially since that Lip is already overclocked and Shanghai can force final engagement here. Chengdu got to leave. Speaking of which gets Lip, they got to make sure they can actually get out of here with players alive and reset properly, but not looking like it. Shanghai might win off the back of these staggered kills.
Yeah, if it's going to be a peaceful engage here, if it's going to happen, you can see that Nisha's already being clocked as he makes his approach for Radar's picked him up, and I'm afraid the aerial defenses of Who Are You and Li Jaegon are far too strong. Jinmu arrives and Jinmu leave. It's only a brief caesura from the Cyborg Ninja as we go 1-1 on Oasis.
Yeah, the final fight there for the Shanghai Dragons, so well played. I mean, once they started winning, they did not allow the Chengdu Hunters to reset properly at all. It was a nice counter pick from Leave, but if he can't get out alive, and the rest of the Hunters can't regroup as 5, there's no time left remaining. They can't go for a final engage that actually counts for anything, and the Shanghai Dragons will clean it up. So the early 80% advantage that they had was pretty brilliant to work through. Chengdu Hunters, though, they've kept it very competitive. It is 1-1. We are going to Guardians for a final round decider here, and both times over, both the earlier rounds that we have played have been close enough that you could realistically say that either team could have won. And in a literal case here, either team has won, because it is a 1-1.
All right, gamers, buckle up, buckaroos. It might not have the Avril seal yet, but the leg day seal of Banger is certainly being affixed to this matchup. A battle for the high ground to begin with as Jinmu wants Who Are You, but there's no dash to play with, and so Who Are You can get himself back into the loving arms of those supports. And here we go, Izayaki in the corner, and there's not much to save him, but Lip at least, we might not be able to save the world, but you'll be damn sure that we'll avenge it, Avril.
Yeah, Lip says no dice in terms of not shooting Jinmu. Here's a headshot straight away, been missing that from Lip. He's been mainly getting killed by Lee, but he'll return the favor at least this one time. Fight is still pretty even for before the Void on 1 HP, a sliver of HP, but does get saved by his own shout. For how long, though? Needs to get healed back and gives Hunters a bit of room to move on forward. They can't quite utilize it for any further frags. In fact, it's now Hunters that are a bit in danger, leaving Jinmu popping quite a bit of pain. Point is still contested. Can this one go on for 2 minutes? So it's a shock all over again. No, it's Lip taking down Jinmu. Lip with the secondary, and now Shanghai likely to get a cap or at least get a flip.
Refrag though from the disruptor field. Now Lip needs to try and get rid of Monk. Remove these armor packs, but no! Monk turns it around and removes Lip themselves. Izayaki, yes, blocks the incoming knife. That's a good amount of damage that's been avoided as Gaga tries his best to backpedal away from the incoming battle. Void knifed in the back, and it's Monk who manages to survive much longer than we gave him credit for. What a fight from a flex support turned Brigitte.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Got to watch out for Monk. Did say in the pre-show that Monk was a player that had been impressing me on the Brigitte. So had Izayaki, but here it is Monk getting all the frags in Chengdu. They did not allow the flip to come through, so they had the original cap. And while Shanghai Dragons looked like they were kind of winning the fight, Chengdu got some good responses. Now 40% in the lead. They're trying to get this map number 1 done and dusted. Ultimate starting to come online now. Lip pulls the trigger first, leave 1% off. Monk held on to the rally, but will finally use it. But by the time the rally can start popping in heals, his teammates are already dead.
A little bit of a miscom there from Chengdu Hunters. Gaga went aggressive to try and get the knife, and yes, he hit it onto Lip, but the rest of Chengdu Hunters decided the best way to try and counter the overclock was to hide away, have a little whimper and a cuddle, maybe a milkshake to feel better. The Shanghai Dragons now set up defensively.
And that's like 4 other ultimates as well for Hunters. In fact, there could have been a 5 ultimate engage from them. There was a very specific timing window where they had a huge ult advantage versus Dragons that still is somewhat existing, but with Void coming up to an ult and Who Are You 5% away, Dragons are about to equalize 4 apiece. So here's that plate now. Jinmu might need a little bit of help.
Yeah. The beat not used yet from Nisha, holding onto it for now, and finally it hits the ground. Who Are You countered, antied, bleeding, but escaping into the loving arms of his own supports. Gaga overrun once more, but oh my, Ralph Wiggum giggles, I'm in danger. Leave has activated the overclock, and you know he hits these right clicks. Alas, he's not fast enough, and Jinmu should be chased on down. Yes, you get a foot upon the point here, but Who Are You has come forward. I'm the main tank now. Look me in the eye and run in fear.
Here we go, 2 more players still remaining here with the Chengdu Hunters. Looks like they might get cleaned out in just a hot second. Indeed, Nisha does. And the flip never came on through, so the Hunters couldn't slow down the approach from Shanghai, who have now overtaken them. It does continue. It looks like Who Are You and the rest of Dragons want to push on forward. They might get more. Gaga is very low HP. Leave has got Lip's number once again. If there's one kill that the Chengdu Hunters can consistently get, it is Leave onto Lip. But the rest of them will go the way of the Shanghai Dragons. We are fast approaching the 80% mark.
I don't want it. I don't care what it costs. I don't care how many soldiers we lose. I want Gaga dead, said Moon. And Shanghai just respond, yes, sir, as we settle down for our final fight on Oasis.
Should be able to get the touch. This time it should be a good touch. They actually have 5 alive. They did get brutally staggered like we saw on University. Rally versus Rally. Only 2 ultimates available. This is going to be a bloody neutral. 9. Touch received. Contest in.
Jinmu marked by Who Are You, but Nisha only goes down first to his counterpart. Gaga's moved in with everyone at his back. The shout expended, and yes, there is some overhealth for Who Are You, but he just doesn't have the friends to sustain it. You're right, Avril, with no ultimates on it. It was all about the bloody neutral, and Nisha got bloody.
Oh yeah, it's a double rallies coming in, but with Izayaki dying almost straight away in the rally. Monk had the extra green HP given to the teammates to allow Hunters to walk on forward. Confident. And now a potential double 99. Both ends. Who Are You and Lip looking for that ult. Jinmu likely to pull. Nothing to block that damage with. Shout into a blade would be perfect for the Chengdu Hunters, but they are waiting for the Dragons to get in position to actually commit before Jinmu goes. And here we go. The shout has been expended. HP's already gone. He's looking for a target. Void level 1. Steals a health pack away. Void can't find it, but will get Jinmu instead. Gets the blade again. Genji. Speaking of which, if Who Are You just wins it, Chengdu have lost this map. Who Are You's got 2. There's no one left. Lead has his overclock cancelled as well. Nobody left to touch. The Shanghai Dragons have all but locked it up.
An unbelievable turnaround here from Shanghai Dragons. Yes, Jinmu pulls out the blade first, but a quick shout, a yelp and a disengage from the Shanghai Dragons, knowing that they had time to play with. Baited in the Chengdu Hunters. The commute was too far. By the time they got there, they'd already finished their cardio. They were panting, they're out of breath, and they could not focus down a singular target. And that's where it fell apart for the Chengdu Hunters.
It's a blade to win the round and win the map, but the blade goes the way of Who Are You instead of Jinmu, and the Chengdu Hunters look up an early loss here as the Shanghai Dragons 1-0, looking good so far, but a competitive game that will now be, I hope, a competitive series. We'll go into map 2 right after this break. Song of Dragons and Pandas. It's the APAC version of game of Overwatch. Pretty good so far, gotta say. Pretty good so far. We're into Season 5 now. And look, the twists and turns, they do be ever coming. As we already had a reverse sweep today. Now we have what I gotta say has been a pretty dynamite of an opening map on Oasis as well. Super back and forth leg day as we had, you know, like every single round of Oasis to me felt like it could have gone either way.
Yeah. It was a game of millimeters, and all of those fights were so just decided by one player being maybe a meter out of position, a shield bash being used too soon, a whip shot being hit at the exact right time, maybe a blade slash not going exactly where it was, but when the dust is settled. Yes, Oasis was designated as a house of a dragon, but we've still got plenty of maps and plenty of wiggle room left to go. However, we're going to be heading over, I believe, to Hybrid next. And we'll be able to bring up our map set in a little bit to see where we're going to be going. I believe it's going to be Midtown here. And Chengdu did okay on Midtown as far as I can remember against Philly. But testing my memory.
I can't remember the game. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Well, Chengdu only lost. No, I actually can't remember the game.
I think Philly fans have suppressed that memory too.
I'd have to go back and check out the specific scoreline for the Philly game. What was it? It was a 3-0, a 2-1 Midtown. So yeah, we didn't get to finish the map, but we got some part way through. I don't know. All I remember from that game, which is a week ago now, is that it was the entire series wasn't a complete blowout in favor of Chengdu, but it was very Chengdu favored in the sense that you never got the feeling that they were ever going to lose that series. Whereas here, it's a very 50-50 call so far, and maybe that changes the deeper we go, right? Because Shanghai do start out with a 1-0. Chengdu, look, this could be one of those classic series where, and this is not a prediction at all, this is just a hypothetical, but if Hunters lose and it's something like an 0-3, it'll be one of those situations where it's like, man, every map was so close, the scoreline doesn't represent how close it was, but unfortunately the scoreline just ends up being so favored one way, even if it is a close game. So let's see if Hunters can turn close games into some wins as well. Historically, the Shanghai Dragons have had a major win streak and win advantage over the Hunters. I believe it's something like, just doing a quick count on my end at the moment, the franchise record between Dragons and Hunters is 11-2. So 11 times Dragons have won, Chengdu have only won twice, and it's a win streak of 5 at the moment. And the last time that Hunters have beaten the Shanghai Dragons was last year during upper bracket finals of, was it not Countdown, it was Summer Showdown, wasn't it?
Yeah. Let's talk Farah. Jinmu's back on his signature hero. And it's going to make Shanghai Dragons commute under this train a little bit more perilous as Jinmu can find these nasty angles, which are going to be very difficult to challenge. Alas, Nisha's going to be the first. The supports are dead. Okay, well, sayonara.
Should be the cap. Well, here's the thing: is I've seen, you know, throughout contenders, there have been plentiful times when Farah A defense has been run. You'll actually notice that it's not very viable on attack. Jinmu swaps Genji here for sure. Surely, please help me, dear Lord. There we go. And Chengdu Hunters, they'll try the 8-point fire defense, but it's like, you know, you need to stall out the game. You need to play very slowly. You need to be putting in rockets as the Shanghai Dragons rather trying to come through the chokes. But if the game kind of gets out from under your feet, gets the rug pulled out, you lose your double supports. Yeah, there's nothing else you can really do with the fire there, and you certainly can't be playing the fire on B. So a quick swap is required. Chengdu will now have to try and catch up on ult, but notably Jinmu's actually not that far behind from Huayu despite swapping.
Yeah, he just manages to carry over a little bit of that ult charge. Void's got up high on the top here. A good split from Chengdu Hunters, 3-2. However, Monk is going to have a very perilous disengagement path. He gets cut on off, and now with Nisha being on the other side, Monk could be vulnerable. What an execution from Who Are You? The prodigal Genji once more takes out the Pretenders, and while you will be bled by the carnage, I'm afraid that it's all about the venom that Who Are You delivers.
That guy's actually on Atlanta Rain. best of luck to them. They got 4 DPS in that team now. There's one less tank for the Chengdu Hunters as Gaga falls. It'll be more of a push coming through from the Shanghai Dragons. It did seem like maybe a little bit weird positioning from from Hunters rather, with Dragons kind of surrounding them. The fact that Huayu even got behind Hunters is quite incredible. Jinmu had no idea what hit him. A max range dash into a right-click melee execute from Huayu dispatches of Jinmu ever so quickly. Now that blade will be online.
No rail connecting. That's no opening for Jinmu to go in. Izzyaki instead sees the opening to move on forward. Buy the space with the rally. Give everyone a little bit more cushioning to work with as Huayu's identified Jinmu. Oh, the deflect's already been used, but a diversion of target over towards the main tank instead. A boop away to try and save Gaga, but slicing through everybody. It's a wide arc of the blade and it sings as it cuts through the air. Oxygen molecules carved from O2 to simply O, as oh my god, this is pace from the Dragons.
Yeah, if you are superstitious, apparently don't sleep with the fan on, because it'll cut the oxygen. Not too sure if a fan blade's as effective as a samurai sword as a katana. Yeah, that's a real superstition people have. Obviously not real, but again, try to tell that to them. As we have Shanghai Dragons pushing on through C. Here's a fun fact for you. Lip has only died once, and that's the only death on all of Shanghai. No one else has died. There's only been 1 kill from all the Hunters this entire defense. And that leaves a lot to be desired for the Hunters, as we're already on to see. Okay, there we go. Another frag. It is onto Lip again. Gaga on board. Gaga's been really taking a brunt of heat from the Dragon so far. It's been pretty rough. Can this be a fight win, as the Hunters struggling to gain any space?
100% of the team deaths. Lip's really letting the side down right now. SMH, I expect better. Void has the Rampage ready to go, but so too does Gaga. Chengdu Hunters actually have so many ultimates ready and at their beck and call here, as they've often been outpaced. In this case, it's once again Lip who moves in and decides the momentum. That's going to be a deflect used, and 3 people struck by the Rampage. Jinmu looks to turn this around in the narrow corridor, but so why are you moving towards him? Why are they moving towards him? It was because Lee was at the back with the disruptor shot, and they had the choice to either back away into the Chengdu Hunters or feed themselves to Jinmu's blade. And when you die to Jinmu's blade, you don't give over ult charge.
Well, in either case, they will be dying. They will get spawn camp now. The Hunters finally strike back. They go from not really having any frags to now 8 total. Over the course of the last fight, Lipper is just going to get picked up by Nietzsche. That is a strange one to see on the kill feed this early on, but there it is. Has been found. Hunters had, what was it again, almost 5 ultimates in that last fight. Most of them got burned to a high degree. I think 4 ultimates, but Monk didn't quite have the rally, so that rally will be online very soon. And speaking of which, of the Hunters coming online for ultimates, they're backing out a fair distance, giving the Dragons some space to work with.
You know, Lip's currently achieving a flattered death lift. He's currently 4 out of the 8 deaths. Shanghai Dragons, though, now in immediate peril. The Rampage hits so many, but Li Jaegon answers it just in time. Gaga now technically surrounded, and that health might not last for long, but Void has at least been taken out by a well-placed shot from Leave. Still a monster on the Sojourn, even without Monk at his back. Jinmu caught in the corridor as Huayu turns around, looking to get some value out of these dashes, running low on HP, but there should be an armor pack waiting for them. This is going to be a little bit of a stalemate fought here by the Shanghai Dragons.
Leave. Low HP. Gaga and Leave got caught low there, Nisha as well. Has to be careful. Maybe this rally is exactly what they got to do to come back instead, and they are trying to run down the Shanghai Dragons, but again, Dragons do such a good job of disengaging up until that point where they finally catch Void. It's at least going to be 1. Can they get more than that? Lip returns to kills. Both of these Sojourn players will find a rail, a headshot. It's not enough for Hunters to go for a spawn camp. They're losing Gaga. Means that you have to pull back, you have to wait for the respawners, but you are bleeding the timer down. Notably, it's only down to 2 now. I think we've shaved this one down by half.
Yeah, we had about 5 minutes coming in. 3 of them are gone now. And Shanghai Dragons haven't been building up a reputable ult bank this entire time. Still, who are you with the blade? Good to go. Nisha ready to answer it, but so too is Jinmu. And Chengdu Hunters, they're going to have an advantage in positioning here until Shanghai Dragons can force them out of these sort of nooks and crannies.
Yeah, we'll be looking for the Huayu blade, notably, right? There has to be the blade versus the Nisha sound barrier, but Leave won't give them the shot. Leave won't give them a chance at all. Leave is going to be sending them right back to the spawn room. And at this point, if you are still keeping up with frags, I mean, Chengdu have caught up. They have well and truly caught up. Now, in fact, they've overtaken. It was, I believe, 1-12. One final blow for Hunters to the Shanghai's 12. Now it's 17-16. Hunters they've actually overtaken as a squad compared to Shanghai. This defense has been solid. We have seen Hunters at 4 ults before. You'll see them at that again.
An absolute bargain. It's been both solid and cheap. Chengdu Hunters still have 4 ultimates ready to go. But this is going to be a cataclysmic battle as Shanghai almost have 5. Void once again going to be the primary target. Can a headshot be delivered? No, but Knife gets there first. My Knife moves at the speed of sound. As Shanghai Dragons, they may have used the rally, but they're only going to be rallying in the Spawn now. It's a flawless attack here for the Chengdu Hunters at the cost of 2 ultimates as 40 seconds remain.
It's 2-1, but better than that because Hunters win cleanly. They get the spawn camp. That's the win condition for being able to push further forward, waste a bit of time, and as time runs out, 30 seconds remain. You got to touch, remember. Shanghai Dragons can't afford to get spawn camp. Who are you on 1 HP as well? He can't even effectively play. The sound barrier must be used, and it will be responded to on the opposite end. Monk so has the extra rally to play through as well. Void waiting for his perfect moment to use that rampage. Catches everybody for just the 3, but importantly gets Gaga down. Rally is not going to save the tanker Hunters, and Dragons might have finally got the push they were looking for.
I don't like that rally at all. That would have been a good way to try and get a battle towards the end. Yes, Jinmu might be able to save himself by going up to high ground here, but the chase could be strong. Leave has once again shown his face, but no, it's just stagger after stagger. This is brutal, Avril, and now Lit moves on forward. It's my turn to overclock, Mum. Oh, gee, Coach Moon lets you have 2 ultimates. Shanghai Dragons will complete.
They'll do it under overtime, but it's better than not doing it at all. And for a team that had a, did you say 5-minute time bank coming into C, it does hurt. It is painful to not get it done in 5 minutes. But again, you'll at least do it. So that's a silver lining that you can be happy with and at least content with, if not extremely pleased by. Hunters, they recovered beautifully after a shockingly bad A and B defense. I think a lot of that was due to the fact that, again, they gambled on this Pharah A defense, and Shanghai did not care. Deleted Monk and Nisha, and doesn't matter what Jinmu does at that stage. They go for the swap back over to the Genji, try and defend B. Who are you with an insanely cool execution on the Jinmu from the back? Allows the Shanghai Dragons to snowball through B as well, and it wasn't until Hunters could collect 4 ultimates on C did they actually mount a proper defense. And now we end the first half, and because we've been sort of keeping up with the stats a little bit here, as a reminder, when Chengdu started C, they only had 1 final blow. Now it's an even 22 across the board. Both teams have 22. Hunters really caught up big on that C defense. Defending for 5 minutes, that's not a small or easy task.
Gaga outpacing Void a little when it comes to the Junker Queen damage, about 7.5k to 6.1. However, I think that Chengdu Hunters really suffered early on this map, Avril, because they were doing things that were too smart.
They did the Pharah.
Not just the Pharah, but also they did a load of split positions. But Shanghai Dragons read really well, and that's how Who Are You managed to get that cool execution from the back onto Jinmu, because he was actually coming back from chasing off Nisha.
That was B as well, so yeah, we had Hunters kind of, they were a little bit split because you had players kind of holding main, a few players in construction as well, on the side of that window. So take a look at this now. Easyaki did get caught a little bit, but shields up and flying so far. Gaga is the one that's actually taking the brunt of the damage, so Hunters have to back out a little bit, at least be respectful.
Motive for both of these teams. Void's actually been taking a huge amount of damage from the Chengdu Hunters as well. We saw that on point C. Huge amounts of focus. And speaking of which, Monk is called as a focus target, and Shanghai Dragons answer the call, but was sent out by Who Are You.
Alright, well, 3K. Great start for Who Are You. I don't think he was going to get 5 there. I think 4 might have been on the cards, but 5 would have been too much because Hunters had already regrouped and spawned. It's a 51% to 41% Blade lead, though, which is not the most disgustingly high lead, but it will definitely count. Who Are You is, he's a ninja in various ways. Obviously, he's playing Genji, but also no one sees him. It's like he's invisible sometimes. He just finds his execution onto Gaga from behind, similar to what he did to Jinmu on that B attack as well. The previous round of play. Saw that Jinmu actually went on the flank for the time being, trying to get a bit of extra damage done, but this fight just goes on to the point where Leave eventually breaks the dam open with the headshot.
Here's Yaki. Taken down. Jinmu going to be punished for this, but with Lit down, there's a good range advantage here for Leave. And Gaga roars on in. Everyone moves forward. The beacons are lit. Gaga calls for aid. And who shall answer but, of course, Nisha running forward. Oh, that's a nice boop there on the sound barrier. Extends the cast for Ligia Gondes, but no one can be finished in the time that it took.
The sound barrier is effective because it keeps them up, it keeps Dragons on the defense, and well, the Chengdu Hunters couldn't keep Leave alive. They're going to go for the light sound barrier now. Leave is about to respawn. It's 4 members that have been saved. Gaga still on half HP, and now who are you? Smack his lips, sees an opportunity that he could blade on. They lose Izayaki, so well, you needs to win this one for the Dragons. Hunters looking like they're backing out, which means Dragons get to hold on a little bit longer without expending extra resources. And last cleanup on Anisha, as Anisha was in deep. Means it's a staggered spawn as well. Hunters, unfortunately, despite getting on the point, putting Dragons to the blade, it's not good enough. They only get the 1 tick.
And Void, he's been surviving on this defense. And it's meant that there's always these intermittent shouts coming up, which allow Shanghai Dragons to find the openings in Chengdu Hunter's presage. There's a blade coming through from the back. Jinmu and Who Are You both unsheathe those katanas, and wow, Monk is going to be able to get the melee damage that's needed, but Nisha's taking down in the midst of all of this. Lit clean when it comes to the shots, and Jinmu, that reflect cannot last for long enough. Shanghai Dragons round upon the Genji, and Lee unfortunately will have to accept his death.
The baby diva with a lot more firepower, but unfortunately in this case, just as fragile. Very long death there that Hunters at this stage can really barely afford. 40 seconds remaining, and all attempts at really getting some mileage on this A point have been pretty fruitless. And we talk about them needing to finish the map here as well, by the way. Yeah, okay, they defended for 5 minutes on C, but they're about to lose 4 minutes on A, so a lot of catch-up required if they can actually get this point underway. It's going to come down to Leave. Major hit coming through from Void as well. 3-man connection, but don't seem to be dead just yet. The shout from Gaga keeps them up, but it does mean that Leave had to back up. They couldn't really get anything done on the overclock.
Disengagement is strong, and now with Gaga having used that shout as well, moving forward's going to be more difficult. Jinmu falls low, and now we've got Lip on the off angle, able to throw out these easy shots, and Monk simply moves straight into the... No! Oh, that is Spain without the S. Chengdu Hunters, an unbelievable fumble, but with Monk down, would it have been a successful fight? We can postulate, we can do the calculations, we can figure out the fractions, Avril, but in the end, I can still be just as disappointed.
Leg day, it's Chengdu zonable, is what that was. Truly, it was Chengdu zonable. I don't know if they would have had enough time to finish the map. I think in some ways, you know, the pain, sometimes you got to rip off that band-aid, just get it done. Get it done with, because
I did hallucinate this one.
The long-term game for me would have looked like Hunters capping A and then struggling to get through B and C. Maybe they don't, but just time is so valuable on a map where you actually have to finish, and it would have been hard for Hunters to finish. That being said, though, unfortunately, they don't give themselves the true opportunity to answer the question of maybe, could it have been, woulda, shoulda, coulda. We're going to have to wait till map number 3 to see if Hunters can make the turnaround happen. Can we get 2 reverse sweeps in the same day? Find out after this. Welcome back to the Overwatch League here. Map 3 coming up very soon between Shanghai and Chengdu, and that was an unfortunate way to end Midtown. Don't get to know if Chengdu would have made it further, but you got to say Shanghai at least had the entire defense on lock up until that last fight, and they capped through the entire map, even if it was in the OT. So a 3-0 posted up on that specific scoreline for just that map. Hunters will not be able to get any capture points, and the Dragons now have match points secured.
And the thing is, with what Chengdu just showed on their point A of Midtown, I'm like thinking well into the future here. But when we get towards Summer Showdown and we get towards like loser picks maps, there's a world where teams might now prefer to take Chengdu over towards Midtown, where their point A seems weak both on the offense and on the defense. We're going to be heading over to our escort map next, and I believe it's going to be Circuit Royale.
Yeah.
And this is one of the areas where we saw a good amount of Genji, even in the Tracer meta. So I imagine that maybe Who Are You actually got some time scrimming this earlier in the year, and Who Are You has certainly been showing off today.
Not to backtrack too much as we head into map number 3 here, I actually think that, to me, it was more about Dragons being able to disengage well and play the defense well, and if Hunters had played that same offense versus a number of other teams, not called Seoul and not called Shanghai, they would have capped. C9 aside, obviously. Defense-wise, to me, they took a gamble on an off-meta for a Pharah. It didn't work out. That's just specifically talking to A. Obviously, different things happen on B. And they got snowballed from A because of that as well. So there's fixable things there. And Hunters, to me, didn't play awfully on that map. I mean, it takes a lot of effort to get a 5-minute defense, if anything. So there's some small rays of hope there, a little bit of copium for a lost map on Midtown. But, you know, we do expect Dragons ultimately to be the better team. And, alright, Jimmu, you played the piano yesterday. We're going to get another concert today. Just thinking about
no
it.
concert? Sad times.
Oh, you got all of Shanghai rolling up for the concert. No piano?
Denied live music by Jinmu. If they get 3-0'd, you know who's to blame. Early spotting here of Void from Nice Intelligent Sonic Arrow. However, this is a brutal area to be spawn camped at. The doors, they are these nasty 90 degrees, and that's where the Junker Queen excels. A double carnage, and Gaga, you are in trouble, mate.
The thing about this as well, you notice that Hunters aren't going back to get healed by the spawn room because you have to allow your supports to get that support ult charge. So while it's quicker to heal via the spawn room, you don't want to deny that from your subs. Iziaki, though, will get denied his life as the Dragons. The spawn hold has unfortunately failed. Even if that is the only kill the Hunters get, it's the only kill they need.
One is all that it takes, but Who Are You still demands blood. He's like a troll on the bridge. You got to pay for Who Are You toll. He's paid in blood this time, and Chengdu Hunters begin rolling the cart forward, Avril.
Well, thankfully for Jinmu, the respawn distance is mighty quick, so, you know, you turn around and you can go straight back to the bridge. And there's a bridge approaching as well, but we're going to go into that one fairly quickly. Next fight should come in from the hairpin around this little shop. And for the Chengdu Hunters, they're getting away with quite a bit of difference in the ult charge for the supports. That can really mean the difference here. Just a tempo rally, a tempo sound barrier to get you past. Super big. Jimmer's okay. He caught the health pack.
Li Jaegon does not want him to be okay. So now we've got the classic 2 versus 2 between the Lucio and the Genji. And Who Are You's actually expended his dash here, so he can't disengage. As he gets too low, he was too bloodthirsty. And Shanghai Dragons start disengaging. This is what brought them that defense back on Midtown. It was all about the good disengages, and yes, Jinmu got too eager. Lit put them down. Now you've got to move in and touch the cart. That gets you into the effective range of Gaga. And yes, the sound barrier ready from Nisha. This is the momentum moving forward. Void is overrun. Bulldozed over by Chengdu Hunters as Lee throws a couple of shots into a deflect. Li Jaegon is forced to scurry away and then back to the cart with a touch more health. That's brought to 0 in short order by Lee. That's going to be a cap.
It's a one-to-one trade in terms of players. Right at the beginning, you lose Who Are You, trade it for Jinmu. But the difference is the support ultimates. We go back to the spawn camping scenario, right? You're letting your supports heal up the initial damage. You're making sure you win that earlier fight as well. We noted that both Monk and Nisha are about 10 to 15% ahead of their counterparts on Shanghai Dragons. And when it comes to that 4v4, having the tempo sound barrier where the Dragons can't respond allows Hunters to get aggressive, get in the face of the Hunters, get in the face of the Dragons rather, get that fight win, get the cap. And now I'm for it's a playthrough. This should be counted as well or not. Monk didn't pull the trigger. Nisha is deleted. It might be Hunters backing out now.
A couple of extra resets coming through, courtesy of a Shanghai Dragons focus fire. That's a pretty cheap fight to win as well. Only the blade is used. Admittedly, Chengdu Hunters didn't use anything to counter it. 4 outs to 4.
That's a rough way to go down when Hunters had the momentum and they end up just... Well, I guess the other perspective we're looking at is they absorb the blade and just kind of don't spend for it and just allow themselves to lose to the blade. If you lose all control, now Jimu's going to have to be the one walking up. Doesn't count out by the sound barrier, so that's been available for some time. Can't catch enough heals to survive. Gargan's on 1 as well, despite hitting 2 on the rampage. Lip will go down, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Leave cannot do it all. He didn't pop the overclock either, so Hunters accept the loss. He's going to get a fadeaway kill to Who Are You. That actually allows the Hunters to maybe regroup a little quicker here.
But not quite as... Oh, okay, that's better. That's better. Now the disengagement's going to be super weak.
And Leave said, I might.
Mess around, make discoveries. The safer broadcast version. Jinmu, oh, he's in the garage. He's in the garage. The mechanic says it's going to cost so much, but I don't think it's going to cost that much, mate. Void taken down, the cart once again moving. I thought that was a tragic fight there for Chengdu, but Leaf says no you.
There's still a touch coming on through. I think Void respawning here with Who Are You and Iziaki available. They can still have time to rally, deflect, so it will be one final fight. Leaf has to do a lot of work here. Can he do enough? Lips low HP, but Void just slashes through them. Needs to hold on to the sound barrier for a little while, but still managed to counter in time with Leaf killing left. 5 versus 4. Dragons are running out of tools here. Who Are You too low to go deep? They can't heal everybody. Void's now low. It's just too many fights to put out for the Shanghai Dragons, and the Hunters look to cap in stunning fashion.
What a response to a 5-man rampage. Yes, they're all together, but Shanghai Dragons simply could not follow up on the damage that Void had brought to the fore, because Nisha perfectly timed with the sound barrier, making sure there was plenty of cushioning on that ticking bleed damage, even through the antes.
Probably held slightly long from my perspective, from my nitpicking perspective. Because it's a risk, you know. You don't want to give Dragons a space to play through. He held on for maybe 2 extra seconds longer. That could have cost them, but like that was enough. It'll be blade versus blade now.
Jinmu with 1 in hand. Here it comes, straight out. That's going to be the reflect. Oh, the disruptor shot. It hurts so much, and so too do the melees. The Brigitte says, welcome to my zone. And who are you now? Can draw out the blade at his leisure, but there's no need to in this particular fight. Gaga pops the shout to disengage, leaves so low, but it's a dash to disengage instead. Shanghai Dragons don't want to risk losing someone when they control such an important choke point, and the disruptor shot now is not going to be available to mess with Who Are You, but the vanilla damage will do just fine. Might not be the most stimulating flavor, but it certainly stimulated Who Are You enough.
If it gives you the W, it tastes good enough to me. Double rallies available now. Lee Jae Gong gets tested by the rail. That will force the Shanghai Dragons back, and here we go. Dragons into the fight. Both rallies have now been popped. The extra sound barrier, the difference maker in this fight. With Iziaki following down, comes down to Lee Jae Gong to pull through for the Dragons. Otherwise, they will lose this one. Gaga looking towards a rampage as well. Do they know the rampage is available? Shanghai Dragons are just so low here.
Void low, but the split into 2 rooms means that this isn't a palatable area in which to use the rampage. Gaga shepherding everyone up onto a high ground. Of course, the spacing here is going to be super important for the Shanghai Dragons. They don't really want to have to use the sound barrier to try and deal with the rampage, but it might be forced with only 1 minute and 20 remaining. Leave so close to the server clock, and they're going to be drawing equal with Lip here. It'll be a tale of 2 legendary hit scans.
It's about identical ultimates, except for Voice will be 15% behind, which does hurt a little bit. You also notice that Hunters have disengaged from the point. They're trying to take pool control. I don't think pool control in this meta matters as much as it did in previous ones. The Hunters will go for it regardless. They want to get a fight going, and Skaga, too low to use the rampage, holds on, and this overclock does not find purchase. We are so close to capping. Now the rampage comes on through. It will be responded to both sides. Double sound barriers. It's Lip that has the only ultimate available now. Jimu's still low HP. Survives. It's a stalemate. Neither team lost a member.
Solid responses from both teams, but in the end, that's an advantage for the defense. Lee Jae Gong advanced upon, but Leaves already dead. A huge amount of the damage is gone, and 30 seconds remain, Avril.
They need Leave. Can't fight without him. Jimu's got a great opportunity presented ahead. No support ultimates. Fresh blade to get the payload across the line. 10 seconds.
The Fresh Prince of Chengdu with a fresh blade ready to be drawn. Huayu's already disengaged using the dash. That might make him a tempting target, but there's so many people surrounding him. The bodyguards are here. Jinmu moves on in. Void is public enemy number 1. And yes, the boops are there, but so too is the damage. Jinmu's got dash resets for days, bruv. And it's an absolute killing spree for the young Chinese Genji. Lip is found upon high, but I'm afraid, Icarus, it's straight to the sun with you, my boy. Jinmu, what a performance and what a finish.
Who are you on 99 as well? It's a heartbreak finish for Dragons because they were so close to matching the blade, but just a little bit off. The fight goes any longer. Monk pulls out the extra rally as well. The Hunters will cap in the overtime. We didn't get to see the majority of the Midtown attack, but we will get to see the entirety of the Circuit Royale attack, and it looks good. Right from A to C, when we begin with the spawn camp deflected by the Hunters. Charging up quite a lot of support ultimates off the back of that one. Snowballing said support ultimates onto B. A little bit of a slowdown on B as the Hunters do meet the defensive force of the Dragons finally. But eventually, you know, Chengdu Hunters pushing on to C, losing a couple of fights, having the overtime, come down, gigantic ult exchange between that swimming pool area. You know, we had the Rampage, we had the Blade, we had sound barriers across the board. When the dust settles, Jinmu's the only one that still has something to play through, and that's the one tool that gets it across the board for the Hunters.
Yeah, we saw some great focus fire as well. Jinmu getting knocked back, but recovering the blade because of a focus fire onto Void. If the focus fire wasn't good enough from the Chengdu Hunters to kill Void, there'd be no dash reset, and Jinmu couldn't start chaining more damage into that. But Chengdu Hunters clutch up, and they finish off the tank. Now, it's going to be Spawn Camp 2, of course, because this is the meta.
And Flitter's not even here for the meta. Certainly not in this patch. Maybe when Tracer comes back.
He's busy deadlifting. For real deadlifting, that is. Not the, not the frag deadlifting.
Get the leg muscles going.
Yeah, it's going to look thick, tight, and solid at the end of this meta.
Well, this is looking pretty solid to me so far. Pretty tight as well in this fight. As long as they don't lose any members to leave here, it'll be pretty tight. I don't believe got a chance to actually build up any rail charge, so yeah, he's gone. No, I lied. Catches Lee J gone on the exit. That's interesting. I don't know if Chengdu can use that, but it feels good.
It is going to at least mean that Shanghai Dragons have to take up far more passive positions here because they can't get speed boosted out by Lee J gone. So we don't see Huayu and Lit playing quite so far up. Means Chengdu Hunters don't actually have the battle for control of this all-important corner. Nisha, though.
Most teams don't. I don't think most teams push that far, but anyway, they push as far as the payload allows them to, for the most part, which will just end up in this neutral ground here, fighting around the statue, fighting around the shop. In the middle of the hairpin. It's Gaga that probably falls. Yeah, just couldn't stay up there. A little bit too much damage. And if Hunters can't get an immediate trade, they will get snowballed. It looks like Jinmu down, fight's over, this should be the cap.
Yeah, Jinmu either misinformed or misjudging the damage the dash would do. Ends up in no man's land in the middle of 4 people with no means of escape or retaliation against his pursuers. Chengdu Hunters, they are suppressed.
They have all the forward spawns, because you actually notice sometimes players get a bad spawn here as the cap comes on through, and then a bunch of potential more staggered kills. But here, all 5 respawned before the cap came in, so they get a very early attempt at another fight, which is a small silver lining for the Hunters to play through, given that there's now a monstrous time bank for the Dragons to play with.
Shanghai Dragons, they want this over quick. I'm not sure if they've got hair appointments like Twilight did, but Huayu certainly has got a feeling in the air tonight. Oh. But I'm afraid that feeling is mostly pain. You're going to need a pill for that one. It is an exchange of Genjis, but Chengdu Hunters, they can now start to play some of these corners to stop the cart in place.
They have their own ultimates coming online as well. Will be sound barriers on both ends. Blade up for Jinmu, who are you freshly dead as they come back with the response. Lip is hunting, nearly hit a play. That could have been deadly. That could have been everything that the Shanghai Dragons needed. And Lip's already on 1 HP. Leave just wanted him out. Leave has just destroyed him a couple of shots in a row. Connects beautifully. EJ gone. The next one targeted, and Leave is having a field day here. And Skeet shooting once again for our 2021 MVP.
Yeah, the ski shooting happens because they say, Jinmu, go int, get Slip to disengage using the jump at the end of a slide, and of course during that jump it's such a predictable arc. For someone like Lip isn't missing those, he's the MVP, my boy. Jinmu with the blade once again. Are we going to get a repeat of the end of point C? This is very aggressive from Lee Jae-gon, but yes, the spawn is broken from.
They have gotten out, like you said, they've gotten out of the spawn. It's important that Shanghai Dragons don't get spawn camped here. Jinmu's got the blade out early, and it looks like Dragons are going to get cut up. No responses. Lee Jae-gon's dead. 5 alive as well. A 3-piece for Jinmu, and Void the only survivor. He won't be for long though, because he's too far out, and he's going to get staggered. That is probably the worst thing that can happen to the Dragons, where you get spawn camped, 4 dead, and then the 5th player is massively staggered.
This is the one thing they didn't want to happen. The next thing they didn't want to happen is getting rampaged by Gaga, but of course for Rampage is a very difficult thing to make work here, with everyone being able to go back into spawn. Still Gaga finds an opening. 3 players hit, but Void answers in kind. 3 for 3, Jinmu going low, but the disengage from Chengdu seems okay. Alas, you can't outrun the railgun that Lit brings to bear. And Chengdu Hunters are run down by the mounted cavalry as they try and flee.
I think Lee was the only one that actually got out there, courtesy of his name. So Chengdu Hunters have 1 less respawn to wait for. There will be 1 more contest. You can see the payloads coming through very slowly. Is only pushed by Izuyaki. The Hunters have come in for a super early defense. Has to be a little bit careful there. It's not the best place to go for a fight. You want Hunters to be the ones coming out of the choke. No ultimates on board for anybody, so Hunters just have to walk forward.
2 minutes on the clock. Important that Shanghai Dragons get as big a time back as possible for that point C. We know how hard it can be to break, especially with a Junker Queen attack. Oh, that's a lovely shot from Lee. Lee Jae-gon forced the move away, and now the healing is limited. A quick slide back, it's a Cha-Cha slide from Lee. And moving real slow for Shanghai.
That is incredible, the timing as well. I mean, Dragons wanted to go for a fight, that ruins their timing entirely. Gives Monk a bit more time to also get that extra rally online. Look to pull the trigger first and foremost. That's a rally cancel. Brilliant shot. That's deadly shots coming through from the Hunters. Against the Hunters, I should probably say. Who are you now with the blade counted by the beat from Nisha. Targeted Jinmu, giving them more of a player advantage, and now the Chengdu Hunters are falling by the wayside. When you really need it, Lip does turn it online.
That was the one shot that was the most effective to hit. Cancelling the rally, forcing Nisha to have to overreact with the sound barrier to the stimuli that were being presented. Like Who Are You and that blade. The blade could have got maybe mitigated very heavily if just the rally was up, because Who Are You would have had some trouble brawling out. Now Shanghai Dragons can move forward.
Can we cap? 2:15 now. We'd like to have a time bank, given that Hunters have already finished this map, but they don't have any time to work with. Double support ultimates versus double DPS ultimates with Void and Gaga. Not that far behind, I might add. Here we go, Jinmu. It's his turn. He's got the shout as well. Instantly beat it on the counter, and the Void just takes him down. Hunters back out.
Excellent target focus there. And now Dragons, they can smell the blood in the water. The Dragon Balls have been collected. They have a wish, yes, and they tell, yes, Shenron, I wish for a 3-0 as we start to move forward towards it. Void, the Warlord, advances upon all those who would dare stand in his path. It's an attempt to escape spawn with the Rampage, but Gaga can't even get off the ground. It's a helicopter, yes, but it's crashing like it's the Apocalypse Now intro. And Shanghai Dragons finish with time.
A lot of time, 2:21 to 1. Obviously, everyone gets the bump up of the extra 60 seconds, but the Shanghai Dragons get to really, really benefit from that. It's more than double the allotted time for the Hunters. So I think now, when you look at it from Chengdu's POV, got to be a cap on A. If they don't cap A, I think it's probably done for. I think Hunters are going to have a tall order ahead of them. Dragons, to me, can definitely get an A-point cap in 2:21. In fact, it would be a bit shocking if they didn't. So Hunters have a lot of work to do ahead of them. And also, another opportunity for Jinmu to play some piano. If he wants to, you know, it's okay.
Yeah.
Performance is
no,
out.
no pressure.
I know.
Have a look at
Finn set the standard pretty high, so yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Who did Pirates of the Caribbean yesterday? Who did that?
I forget.
Oh, I also forgot.
damn.
I think it was it the Toronto game?
Well,
I think it's a Toronto player.
We actually had some Kanye. It was very nice.
They're doing? Okay.
Yeah, got me listening to those albums again, man. Quick stat. Gaga currently at 8k damage per 10 on the Junker Queen. Void at 9.2.
I ain't saying she a gold medal digger here, but it is Gaga with gold damage currently.
He is popping off.
That
Void
kill,
even more
gold
so,
damage
though.
medal goes a little bit further forward.
Oh. It's a pretty brutal spawn camp at this point. This is okay for Chengdu. Who are you? Yes, he's popping off and can collect the Mega. But you're going to have to get out of here before those respawns move on in.
It's I think both of our Jungle Queens ended up getting kills and falling there. 20 seconds remaining. Hunter's not getting brutally spawn held there is super important, so they can start thinking about how they're going to snowball through. I don't think they're going to get a crazy ult lead this time. You're not going to see the sound barrier from Nisha where Lijiang doesn't have one. In fact, Lijiang is slightly ahead. The OT is about to hit now, so Shanghai, you can see they don't want to force a fight until the OT actually does begin, because that is a critical fight you do need to win. So as OT comes in now, Shanghai think about how they want to move. In fact, it's Hunters that might force the issue early. Void deep inside the Hunters team. Doesn't take that much damage though. In fact, the damage has been pretty even. Shanghai maybe slightly more battered and bruised. Still no ultimates on either end just yet. He's looking for a snipe. The first rail landing could be it, and there it is, the rail exchange for both. Unfortunately miss here. Jimmu now 17% shout expended by Hunters. Can they walk on 4? Shout response by Void, and it's Leave going down. Lip will find it, and this could be the beginning of the end. Dragons with a 5 versus 4, now a 5 versus 3, and Hunters with no responses. The beat comes in, celebratory for Lee Jae-gon as Hunters are going to get boomed out of the server only partway through that hairpin, and the Dragons will hold.
And now this is danger. Seems a little bit more of a far fling from the close nature of our control map. Midtown was certainly a lot more in Dragon's favor, and we were wondering how Chengdu Hunters would do against Shanghai when we thought back to the other top team in APAC, Seoul Dynasty. They took the pandas behind the shed and put them down, to put it politely. But
Wow.
Chengdu have iterated.
Endangered animal, by the way.
Yeah, very immoral from Seoul Dynasty, to be honest.
Very, very immoral. Anyway.
Arnold, how could you? But Chengdu Hunters, they've iterated quite a bit since then. They've heavily improved, so we're wondering if they do a little bit better against some of the others in the top echelons of APAC. Admittedly, 2.5 minutes isn't an amazing amount of time when you consider a spawn hold, but both of these teams have absolutely fumbled their spawn holds.
You know what this is? This is exactly almost as I alluded to earlier after the first map of Wastes. I'm like, there's a world here, a hypothetical that's starting to become more and more real as we go through, where if Hunters lose 0-3, we're going to be talking about how this was like the closest series ever that was still an 0-3, and the scoreline doesn't speak to how close it was, but it's still just not good enough for the Hunters, right? It doesn't give you enough to feel confident because it's still an 0-3. Lip will test the waters with the Ashe. I don't think he'll actually play this for the majority of the attack, but he'll just try to get some early damage on.
At the end of the season, they'll only remember the scoreline. Lip slots back over onto the Sojourn. Chengdu Hunters have admittedly done a little bit of a disengage here, a soft disengage. They'll once more stop the cart in progress. But the thing is, if they fight here and don't stop the cart properly, they have the potential to get fully snowballed.
It's looking like what's going to happen right now because there's no responses. Chengdu also kind of self-staggering a little bit with 2 extra players being alive. Maybe Dragons just wanted to kill them slowly. They can only afford to lose 2 fights here. The Hunters, that's number 1 out of 2. In fact, they might not even be able to touch. I say 2 fights, but because they are still waiting for 2 members to come together, this whole squad is now trying to roll up. We're about to cap. Touch.
This has to be it for the Chengdu Hunters. All of their chickens need to come home to roost. Yes, there should be a touch. No Chung-9s this time. I don't want another death screen. Thank you very much. Lip disengages. Jinmu dead. The secret sauce has been spilled on the floor. My spaghetti, Avril. It's all gone. As Shanghai Dragons mass upon the cart, and Chengdu Hunters are left scrambling and crying at this 3-0 L.
Who touched my spaghetti? It was the Shanghai Dragons with a 3-0 and a completed time bank as well, where the Hunters couldn't defend A, they couldn't attack A. But the Dragons happy with that result. If it wasn't for that one map loss to the Philadelphia Fusion, they themselves would also be 12-0 in map differential, which would have been insane because it would have both Dragons and Seoul Dynasty neck and neck in the standings. But we have definitely, in my opinion, got a little bit of a more clear understanding of where the chips kind of fall here between all our teams. Seoul and Shanghai, without a doubt now, our number 1 and number 2, yet to be decided until they play against each other. But the Hunters, I think, are comfortably third. They lost 0-3 versus both Seoul and Shanghai, but Hunters still look better than everybody else, which just tells you how big that gap is between Seoul, Shanghai, and literally everyone else.
Yeah, we had our question marks when Philly came out and took a map off of Shanghai, and we were like, okay. But then they lost to the Guangzhou Charge, so sorry, mate. The power rankings are going to look a lot more concrete now. But someone who's looking real solid out there is the person who we weren't sure if we were going to see as much of from Shanghai Dragons this season. They've got Fleta, the former MVP, on their roster. How are you going to bring this guy in? Oh, you're going to bring him in a Genji meta, baby. Because if you want one Genji to rule them all, I present to you the Dark Lord. Who are you?
And he performed, I think, above and beyond as you'd expect. He's just had a ball of a time so far in this kind of Joe's Jungle Queen meta, where Genji is still mighty strong, as he has been for most of the year. Took a brief break, who you did during the mid-season madness, and I gotta say, Shanghai didn't look nearly as good without him as they do with him on. And he was a clear standout. Like, if Leave really caused problems for the Shanghai Dragons, but who are you? He's a problem solver. He got the better of Jimmu on a number of cases. I mean, I still look back to that B-point assassination on Jimmu from Who Are You that allowed Dragons to snowball further on their attack. It just comes in so swiftly, so cleanly. He really does have some of the best Genji mechanics I've ever seen, and that's in the history of Overwatch, not just talking about Overwatch 2.
Oh yeah, and it's all over the history of Overwatch as well. From the 2016 Apex seasons with Lunatic High to now with the Shanghai Dragons as our reigning champions from our 2021 season. Who Are You has been a player to fear. And with an over 2.1 KD when it comes to final blows to deaths, is walking away from today with his head held very high.
And indeed, and I think for the rest of the Dragons as well. I mean, you got to enjoy a moment like this if you are the Dragons, because you have proven that you are the only other opponent that can and maybe will defeat the Seoul Dynasty. That is a brutally good rivalry. We call it El Clasico out here because it is the two best teams, the two producing the best games ever, and everybody else just seems like spectators. We've got 5 NPCs and 2 main characters. We have, I don't know which one it is, it's Gary and Ash, but they're both protagonists. It's very hard to see. I don't know, I have no idea. It's the game that we're all waiting for, because it doesn't seem like anybody can stand in the way. But that will conclude Week 2 of APAC here. We're going to come back in our third and final week, which includes a very important Seoul versus Shanghai game, so you don't want to miss it. I'll see you again next week for some more Overwatch League.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Adaptive circuits engaged. Genji.